On July 1st, a state law went into effect that allows a judge to order someone to temporarily give up any guns they own under two conditions. One, if they've been accused of domestic violence or have a restraining order. That's called an order of protection, and that's against them. And two, if the alleged victim can prove their life is in danger. Democrats really like this bill, but it seems clear it's not working as intended. Our Line Opinion panel is gathered at the table to talk about this topic and other news of the week. We've got Line regular Serge Martinez, a professor at the UNM School of Law. State Representative Janice Arnold-Jones is here, a welcome and familiar face at the table. Former New Mexico House Minority Whip and another Line regular Daniel Foley's here. He's always welcome too. And we round off with former State Senator Eric Griego. Eric, thanks for being here too. Now, welcome to you all. This seems at least in spirit to be a red flag law, sort of in finger quotes here. There is a difference we'll talk about in a second. Is there a legislative fix to this, Serge? I'm going to start with you. Is there a legislative fix to this? Or is there a fundamental flaw here when it comes to, we're going to talk about warrants and getting guns in homes and things. Is there a fundamental flaw here that we just didn't address in the legislature?
I mean, it certainly wasn't addressed, right? This idea that if a court orders you to surrender your firearms, that we'll just assume that's going to happen and there'll be no follow-up and there's no
it's a voluntary...
no repercussions for not doing it. There's no sort of oversight, right? Other places have addressed this in much stronger ways. And like, look, we're going to send a police officer to your place to try to recover those guns. And if you don't give them, then the court can in certain circumstances issue a warrant, order searches and whatnot, right? Take it seriously when we've decided that someone is a threat and we have reason to believe that they have a firearm, that we're going to actually take it seriously.
Right. Daniel, the idea that we'll talk about this will come up in the next section in 2020. There was a bill that did not pass that addresses exactly what Serge just mentioned. But the idea that this voluntary thing to turn in your weapons, is that a fundamental flaw or is that actually the appropriate way to go? Is that the best way to do this?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of issues, right? The first issue being in your introduction to legislation when it says those accused of domestic violence.
Right.
You're going to have a lot of people that have a hard time saying you have to surrender your weapon, you have to give up a Second Amendment right because someone's accused you of something. Clearly we have a problem, not only in the state but in this country. I mean, we've got to figure out what we're going to do about this. Because
let me kind of work that timetable out. Yes, there's an accusation, but we do have jurisprudence in this situation, meaning a judge has to make this order. This isn't
That's
just
right. But that doesn't mean the person is convicted of domestic violence yet.
Okay.
So I can make an accusation that Janice is committing domestic violence against me. I go to court. At that point, before anything happens, they're going to ask Janice if she has a gun. They can take the gun from her. There's no order of protection that could have been issued yet. Okay. It's purely an accusation of domestic violence. And I think that we've got to figure out a way to cover the gap. We can't let all the accusations fall because we do know that from the accusation to the committing of the crime, there's an unbelievable amount of evidence that says, listen, sometimes these people, the accusation is real even though the courts don't catch on to it. So we got to come up with some process, right? We got to come up with some process to vet these to make sure this should be done. Because you have examples, right? I mean, clearly the law doesn't have the teeth when all the judge can say is, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, do you have a weapon? And the answer is no, and we're done. As the example in Santa Fe where the individual said, no, he didn't have a gun. Then he said he sold it. Then he turned in 5 firearms a few days later to the police department. Not only did he do all of that, from reading the article, there was no ramifications for that. Like he wasn't held in contempt of court. He wasn't considered. So why would anybody now say yes? I mean, if someone's got this weapon, but it also doesn't address the fundamental issue of how do you stop this, right? Because even if you take that individual's weapon, they're going to find a weapon. They're going to do something else. So I think that before we start worrying about taking guns from people who are accused of domestic violence, we got to figure out a way to hold those that are actually convicted of domestic violence accountable for their actions. And we've seen repeatedly in the state that our jails are just a revolving door of individuals that get in and get out.
Janice, interestingly, as I hear Dan say this, we have 7,000 protective orders that were filed in 2017 across the state. We have a system. Our judges are hired, literally, to make these decisions. They look at the information, they say, yes, I agree, a protective order must be issued here. Good enough? Why is that not just good enough? And folks have, 48 hours to turn in their weapons.
Well, let me say, but the 7,000 protective orders were before the confiscation, the civil asset forfeiture of a weapon. But when you look at those cases, that 7,000 cases, what they are looking at is saying, you've got a problem here and stay away. And so let me speak for women. So they are not nearly as afraid of a gun as they are of fists or of a guy strangling them, which is the number one issue that happens in most domestic violence cases. And I don't want you to think that it's just women that do this, followed by a knife. And we haven't talked about any of that as we're talking about this process that has absolutely no teeth. And we haven't looked at the other side of this. So
I'm hearing two different things from you guys. Is it that it has no teeth, or is it the thing just flawed completely? And why are we bothering to come get guns? That's what I'm hearing you guys saying.
That's not what I said.
Underneath, that's what I'm hearing.
If you want to say that, Gene, and say that that's what we're saying, I think you're wrong.
Okay.
I think we're saying that there's a problem with, for instance, and I'll defer to Serge because he's the attorney. To get a protective order doesn't mean someone's guilty of something. I can go in and say that I need a protective order against Gene and get it granted. That doesn't mean that...
That's understood.
But Gene, if that's understood, why are you wanting to confiscate something that belongs to someone's personal property based on something that's not a conviction of something being done wrong?
I'm going to let Eric Riego answer that question.
Well, I mean, like the sanctity of me owning a weapon, I'm always shocked because when it comes to folks who are much more conservative and law and order based, it's always like, domestic violence, we're talking about a reasonable judge doing the right thing to try to protect a person who's in a very potentially violent, potentially life-threatening situation. It's amazing to me that pro-gun folks, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter unless you're just assuming every judge is incompetent, that a judge would say, you're in a dangerous situation. There's a firearm. Right. There's a firearm in home, and I think the real problem here is that it's not tough enough, and that frankly it's falling down on enforcement because we've set up this false dichotomy in this country, where if you are in any way held to a higher standard for having an instrument of lethal force that is often used in domestic violence crimes, and I'm surprised that anybody who's been anywhere near domestic violence would support the Second Amendment over potentially the leading cause, and it's actually not strangulation, it is a firearms. That's the leading cause of death in these domestic violence situations. If there's a gun involved, the odds of it ending up in a lethal situation increase dramatically. So we so cling to this false sacred right that we have a right, no matter how violent the household is, no matter how bad the situation is, no matter what the legal pattern is, that we're gonna hold that right above the possibility of saving a life. Not just, by the way, if you listen to this, I don't know if you follow the story of the sheriff in Houston who said, look, he just lost one of his officers in a domestic violence situation because this domestic violence offender, the male in this case, had a gun. Right. His officer reported to a domestic violence situation, shot the cop, killed the cop. And he's saying, at what point do we stand up to the NRA and other gun rights folks and say, at what point do we really say, we're not taking away your gun rights, but if you're in a situation of you have a protective order, you've potentially committed a crime, we have to get involved for the safety of our community and of law enforcement, frankly.
Go back to Serge on this. A reminder, until this was debated on the Senate floor, there was a provision about what we were talking about originally, starting this conversation about being able to get a search warrant from a judge to go into a home and get a gun. And that was lost in the compromise on the Senate debate on the floor. Are things headed? I'm reading that folks who support this feel like we're heading towards that eventuality, that they feel like that's where they want to go, and that's the only thing that will make this thing have teeth. At this point, are you seeing that in this next coming legislative session? Is that
it certainly seems
the
like
numbers that we have now?
The natural evolution of this is say, hey, we really want this. Oh, it has no teeth. Let's give it some teeth and say that in a situation where we think someone is in danger or there's a chance that violence could erupt, that we actually have to be able to do something and not just say, now, don't use your gun.
Right.
And so I think that the places that have gotten there before us have seen this and have implemented these sorts of procedures to give some teeth.
And Janice, I was referring to the Extreme Risk Protection Order Act, and that's the one that died, and it's probably going to come back up.
But there are lots of questions here. So where Dan and I are is somebody who just says, I think you're at risk, I think I'm going to get hurt. That alone is not sufficient to take somebody else's rights away. And the due process piece, we've just not finished it. It has so many holes, including the piece that when there has been a mistake, and there are a lot of false claims, and you gotta, there's an awful lot of honor stuff here, that it is on the victim of the false claim to pay for all those fees, which is, so we really have a lot of work to do to make this work. But in good police work, when there is a real threat, they go and get a warrant and they present it and a judge acts on it, even before somebody is convicted. That's called building a case. And I don't
Does that
understand.
happen often in domestic violence cases, though? What you're saying is it's almost like detective work, and they get in there like a real case.
Yeah.
Isn't that why we have these judges? They
No,
sit
that's
and
why you
make
have
these-
cops.
That's why you
know?
have
John,
But
no,
the
judges-
cops don't issue the order. The
No,
judge
the
issues
cops
the
build
order,
the case to
Right.
help the DA get the order. This
Yeah.
isn't, Gene, we don't have a system, you may be surprised, we don't have a system that the door opens up and you just walk in front of a judge and say, I don't like Eric Griego, give me a
Let's talk
restraining
about the
order.
system we have, Dan. Not the
No,
pretend
this is the system you think, because the system we have-
a judge has the right.
No,
in
the
their
system we
job.
have, you have to present
If someone
evidence
is,
before
if someone
someone's
is
convicted.
feeling endangered
No, Gene.
in
Yeah.
their relationship, where else do they get? They go to the police. They've already gone to the
They
police.
get the protective order.
They've already gone to the police, and assuming they've now in front
and they
of the
get
judge.
the protective order.
Right.
We're fine with that. You're saying now we should take it a step further that says we should now take someone else's rights away because someone else feels threatened by that. And I'm not saying that there's not reasons.
That's what we voted on in the legislature last year. It's not me. I mean, this
No,
is
it's not
what
what we voted on. That's what
you
the
know?
legislators voted on. We
Right.
don't have,
You know,
we don't have
I
a
mean,
democracy.
you
We got a
know.
republic.
Right.
They voted on it, and they got watered down because the only way you can get people to vote on things is you have to
Right.
have some compromise.
That's true.
And so you wind up with this piece of legislation now that
I got to wrap this up. Are you guys saying this shouldn't be on the books at all? Is that what you guys are saying? The judges shouldn't have this right to do this at all?
No, but the process leading up to the judge
I'm
is
saying-
flawed, and we don't have
Okay.
enough resources.
There needs
All
to be
right.
a process, Gene. It's funny how we want to give the judges all this authority
10 seconds if
on
you could.
here, but we have all these problems. You look at things like mandatory sentencing. You look at all these things that we've given judges, that we've tied the judges' hands, and here we're giving judges some discretion, but we've turned around and said there's no teeth in it. What I'm telling you is that if you're going to put more teeth in it, you have to make sure that you're doing the right thing at the front end. You cannot infringe someone else's rights because someone else feels that they're being threatened.
Out of time on that one. We'll be back with this group in a few minutes. After the break, we head to the border for this month's episode of Our Land.